and carried out a drone strike near the Syrian capital city of Damascus. Israel said that the strike targeted an extremist group south of Damascus as it prepared to carry out an attack on members of the Druze community.
We, the Jewish people, know what it is to be a minority. The Middle East is a tough region for minorities. I call on the international community to fulfill its role in protecting the minorities in Syria, especially the Druze, from the regime and its gangs of terror. And not to turn a blind eye to the tough events taking place there over the recent months.
Benjamin Netanyahu has called the strike a warning operation and a stern message that was conveyed to the Syrian regime. Israel expects it to act to prevent harm through the Druze. Israel has settled 24,000 Druze community members in Israeli-occupied Golan Heights that it captured from Syria in the 1967 war. Israel annexed the territory in 1981, a move not recognized by most countries or the United Nations. The fighting marked the latest episode of deadly sectarian violence in Syria, where fear among minorities are swelling since Islamist-led rebels ousted Bashar al-Assad from power, installing their own government and security forces. That fear has spiked after the killings of hundreds of Alawites in March in an apparent revenge for an attack by Assad loyalists.
To be one people, without sects, without sectarianism. On this basis, the regime has fallen. On the basis that there would be no sectarianism, that we would be one people and one hand. I don't know what is happening. Why this killing? Why this attack on the Druze? Why this attack on the Alawites? And why this attack on the coast? By God, I don't know. There is no need for all of this.
The unrest poses a serious challenge to Ahmed al-Shara's regime that has time again promised to unite a country torn by 14 years of civil war.
Israel is facing fires in separate and different areas. Even Israeli army bases have caught the fires. Some are talking about sabotage, and the Israelis have declared it a national emergency. We tell you more in this report.
The police told us to turn around and leave. They told us to evacuate.
When Israel was gearing up to mark its Memorial Day for fallen soldiers, the nation came face to face with a hazardous calamity. A fire that appeared to envelope a hilltop on the outskirts of Jerusalem quickly spread across central Israel. Israel says it is one of the largest wildfires it has witnessed in decades.
Honestly, I've been in the service for 24 years, and I've been through many fires. There's no doubt that this is one of the toughest fires I've seen, with a crazy rate of spread.
Videos showed the fires burning along the main Route 1, Jerusalem to Tel Aviv highway. Many people were seen abandoning their cars and running away from the flames. Israeli air forces also released a video showing a plane dropping a fire retardant on the burnt landscape. Israel's prime minister accused Palestinians of incitement on social media, saying his topmost priority is to defend Jerusalem.
While fire engines are preferred, given the limitations, the priority right now is defending Jerusalem. That is of utmost importance, and I don't yet know how far the fire has spread in other hotspots across the country. We need to use every available tool and mobilize as many resources as possible.
As Israel sought help from the international community, Italy sent 2 of its Canadair firefighting planes to help aid over 160 Israeli firefighters in their battle against the disaster. Rescue teams have reported at least 5,000 acres of land around Jerusalem is scorched. The fire service has now opened an investigation into the cause of the fires. The crisis has sparked political tension, with officials trading blame over the lack of resources and response coordination.
Now let's talk about Iran, and this time it's not about the nuclear talks. We're going to talk about Bandar Abbas port blast. One of the main shipping hubs in Iran was taken by a blast. Thousands were injured, many people lost their lives. Now, what were the reasons for this deadly blast and how is Iran dealing with it? We tell you.
Iran's Bandar Abbas port enveloped in smoke after a huge explosion. The incident comes at a time when Iran's top officials were holding nuclear talks with US in Rome. However, no link has been suggested so far between the two events. The explosion hit the Shahid Rajai section of Iran's biggest container hub. The blast was heard several kilometers around. It shattered windows, tore off metal strips from the shipping containers and damaged the goods in them. Rescue workers rushed to the spot. Members of the Iranian Red Crescent Society were seen dropping bags of fire retardant through an aircraft hatch onto the thick smoke. From Saturday to Sunday, fires kept breaking out in different parts of the port, with helicopters and firefighters making non-stop efforts to extinguish them. This was the moment when the flames rapidly spread in the Bandar Abbas port. Russian emergency agency released footage showing the Beriev BE-200 amphibious firefighting plane trying to extinguish the large fires. Sporadic fires were fanned by winds and flammable goods in the containers, some releasing toxic emissions. Iran's government says the tragedy that claims 70 lives is most likely because of a human error.
The possibility of sabotage has so far been ruled out. Up to this point, the issue has likely been identified as human error, but we are still refraining from making a definitive statement until investigations are complete.
However, analysts say the deadly explosion could be a case of sabotage.
It is natural that warmongering and extremist tendencies are unable to establish a reasonable agreement between Iran and the United States. It is natural that we should consider these as components that may be sabotage, or the possibility that a force wants to prevent the continuation of the negotiations. And we consider this as an option, but my point is that so far we do not have any clear and specific documents or evidence for this theory.
The blast destroyed key infrastructure at the port, including gantry cranes, warehouses, and storage facilities. While oil refineries and pipelines were spared, the port's cargo handling capacity, 80 million tons annually, including 49 million tons of non-oil goods, was crippled. The port accounts for 55% of Iran's non-oil imports and exports and manages over 85% of Iran's container cargo. Iran's economy, already suffering under years of US sanctions, has been facing greater strain under Trump's pressure campaign. But many believe the blast will not have a lasting impact on the country's economy, as the government tackles vulnerabilities in critical infrastructure.
Washington is fighting a costly war with the Houthis. The Yemeni group has cost more than $200 million up so far. They have already destroyed 7 American Reaper drones. Now, Donald Trump has intensified the military operations against the Yemeni Houthis, especially in the Sada region. We tell you more in this report.
Nearly 2 months into his second term, US President Donald Trump launched Operation Rough Rider, a campaign of aerial strikes targeting Houthi strongholds in Yemen. The operation has killed over 300 people. Houthis say Washington's latest strike hit a detention center in Sadar, which was housing over 100 African migrants.
There are injuries to the head, injuries to the chest. As you know, when a strong airstrike hits a crowded place full of detainees, it causes various injuries, whether to the head, chest, stomach, and limbs. We are now sorting the cases and doing what we should do.
US military says it has struck over 800 targets in Yemen. US media reports Washington's 6-week-long operation, which has not been approved by Congress, is proving to be costly for United States. So far, US reportedly has spent over $1 billion in its campaign against the Houthis. This makes Washington's fight against the Houthis one of America's costliest ongoing military operations across the globe, and it seems unlikely that the war is going to end anytime soon. Houthi rebels, who call themselves Ansar Allah, say it has managed to completely destroy 7 US MQ-9 Reaper drones, which would cost US a staggering $200 million. Now an FA-18E Super Hornet, worth approximately $60 million, lost in the Red Sea during a towing mishap aboard the USS Harry Truman. The exact details of the turn the Truman made to avoid the Houthi fire have not been released. This incident marks the second Super Hornet loss for the Truman strike group, following a friendly fire incident in December. In February, the Truman collided with a merchant ship near Egypt. No injuries were reported. US Navy carriers are the world's largest warships at nearly 1,100 feet long. They have a displacement of almost 100,000 tons. Despite claims of targeting Houthi infrastructure, civilian casualties have mounted, fueling criticism of the US campaign's precision and objectives. The Houthis, far from being subdued, have intensified their operations. They are not only attacking US vessels in the Red Sea, but also targeting Israeli air bases.
In response to this aggression and its crimes against civilians, the Yemeni armed forces targeted the American aircraft carrier Truman and its accompanying warships, engaging them in a joint operation carried out by the naval forces, the drone air force, and the missile force. The operation involved several cruise missiles, ballistic missiles, and drones over the past hours.
Since November 2023, Houthis have carried out more than 100 attacks in Red Sea, a vital route which accounts for 12% of global trade. Despite Washington's crippling sanctions on groups who have provided support to the Houthis, the Yemeni group continue to survive one of the world's most advanced military onslaughts, making it increasingly difficult to infer when this war will end.
From Iran to Yemen, and now let's go back north to the Turkish part of West Asia. Turkey is expanding its presence in Iraq. Now, the Iraqis have protested that it is an unprecedented expansion from the Turkish part, especially in the Kurdish regions. We tell you more in this report.
For decades, Turkiye has fought the PKK in the difficult mountainous terrain of Iraq. The EU, UK, and US have banned the Kurdish group, calling it a terrorist organization. But over 2 months ago, the PKK announced it was laying down arms while calling a ceasefire with Turkey. But instead of reducing its military presence after the scaling down of the hostilities, Turkey is drastically increasing its military presence in Iraq. Iraqi MP and member of the Defense Committee, Hussein al-Amiri, says the Turkish expansion is seen in its continuous incursions. He claims further that Ankara is setting up military bases and escalating air and artillery strikes in northern Iraq. In particular, Al-Almeiri says Turkey's forces have entrenched themselves in the Duhok and Erbil provinces, all on the pretext of fighting the PKK. Reports also suggest that as part of undeclared movements, a new Turkish military force is reinforcing the Bashika base north of Nineveh. The escalated movement of Turkish troops in Iraq is in sharp contrast to the PKK ceasefire. It came after Abdullah Öcalan, the leader of the Kurdistan Workers' Party, unilaterally called off the armed insurgency that the group has been waging against Turkey since 1980s. Iraq depends on Turkey for trade, investment and water security. Fractured internal politics have undermined the government's ability to take action against the growing Turkish presence in the country. Iraq's Kurdistan Democratic Party, or the KDP, an arch-enemy of the PKK, dominates the Kurdistan regional government. KDP has officially been in charge since 2005, when Iraq's constitution granted the region its semi-autonomous status. The KDP's close ties with Turkey have contributed to the region's economic success. It has also strengthened its position against regional rivals and with the Iraqi government in Baghdad, with which it tussles for greater autonomy. Turkey's military expansion in Iraqi Kurdistan is fueled by its rise as a drone power. It has also been increasing its defense budget to establish its dominance in West Asia. The question for Iraq is now, will Turkey's continuing presence in the region aided by the Iraqi KDP turn into a larger security crisis for Baghdad?
As we reach the last part of our episode, let's talk about tourism. Saudi Arabia hosted in the city of Jeddah the Grand Prix for the Formula One in the past week. Besides everybody flocking to see Jennifer Lopez and Lewis Hamilton, people were really interested in the old town Jeddah. And this is an insight to how much Saudi Arabia has been taking care of the tourism, especially as a part of the 2030 vision. Take a look.
I came to Saudi Arabia for the Grand Prix. We spent 2 days at the circuit, and today we have come to the old city, which is very beautiful because of its warm and earthy tones. It's very hot. We are keen to discover more about the city's history. We still have a lot to see, but it's really very beautiful.
Veramente bella.
That's it. That's all we have for you in this episode of the West Asia Post. I will see you next week with a brand new lineup, always bringing you the most recent updates, news and ground reports from the world's most volatile region. I am Ghadi Francis, signing off from Beirut, Lebanon. For more global news, keep on watching WION World is One.
Dive into the world of tokenization with me on Token Money Magnet, only on WION.
Africans worldwide unite in solidarity with Burkina Faso's leader, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, following an assassination attempt and US accusations against him. Traore's defiance of neo-colonialism and fight for African sovereignty have sparked protests across the continent, demanding leaders to prioritize on their people and reject foreign influence. Following the burial of late Pope Francis, many Catholics are wondering if the Church could soon elect its first black pope. With Africa home to 1 in 5 Catholics, the idea of a pope from the continent is gaining ground. And in Congo, female bonobos team up against males to secure higher positions in their social hierarchy. It's one of the rare times such a strategy has allowed females to come out on top in the animal kingdom. Watch Wild of Africa at these times on WION. Wild is One.
U.S Health Resort is unique, the only one of its kind. Experience the 4 paths of natural wellness: yoga, Ayurveda, acupuncture, and naturopathy. Each uniquely customized program improves the whole person to make every person whole. Come to U.S Health Resort. Make your reservation at yo1.com.
Africans worldwide unite in solidarity with Burkina Faso's leader, Captain Ibrahim Traore, following an assassination attempt and U.S. accusations against him. Traore's defiance of neo-colonialism and fight for African sovereignty have sparked protests across the continent, demanding leaders to prioritize on their people and reject foreign influence. Following the burial of late Pope Francis, many Catholics are wondering if the Church could soon elect its first black pope. With Africa home to 1 in 5 Catholics, the idea of a pope from the continent is gaining ground. And in Congo, female bonobos team up against males to secure higher positions in their social hierarchy. It's one of the rare times such a strategy has allowed females to come out on top in the animal kingdom. Watch Wild of Africa at these times on WION. Wild is One.
Imagine a world where owning your dream asset is just a click away, where wealth is no longer exclusive to the few. Tokenization, the game changer, transforming assets into digital opportunities. A revolutionary technology opening doors to a new era of investment. Don't miss Token Money Magnet, a bold initiative by Culp Foundation. Only on WION World is One.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide, because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call.
global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
Hello and a very warm welcome. You're watching Race to Power. I am Molly Gambhir. Lots in store for you with a lot happening in power corridors around the world. In the United States, Donald Trump's big, beautiful budget proposal will be announced by the White House shortly, and big deductions, bigger defense spending expected in the new battle. And in the UK, far-right reform has defeated the ruling Labour Party by the narrowest victory margin ever in a by-election. Our political stance shifting in the UK. We focus on that and more. There is a shake-up in Donald Trump's team in the White House. U.S. National Security Advisor Mike Waltz is out, the first high-profile removal of this new administration. And as per reports, his downfall was not just about policy differences. It was, in fact, personal, political, and driven by two powerful women in Trump's orbit, Susie Wiles and Laura Loomer. Waltz, remember, a former Florida congressman, had been a key player in Trump's early national security strategy. He was seen just days ago flying with the president aboard Marine One. But when the president boarded Air Force One for a trip to Michigan, Waltz was left behind. This was a signal that many saw as a red flag. And now, less than 48 hours later, Waltz has been reassigned. He has been sent to serve as the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations. The diplomatic role is being widely viewed as a demotion. While the move may have come as an absolute surprise, behind the scenes, the knives had been out for weeks. Along the way, Waltz appeared to have fallen foul of two of the key women in Trump's team. Reports suggesting that Waltz had lost the confidence of Trump's chief of staff, Susie Wiles, the second most powerful figure in the White House. Wiles, as a veteran of Florida politics, had helped bring the congressman into the fold. But within weeks, they clashed when he reportedly tried to keep her out of top-level national security meetings. At the same time, staunch Trump loyalist Laura Loomer had made Waltz her target. Loomer had made it her mission to root out anyone she deemed disloyal to the president. She had released an old video of Waltz criticizing Trump during the 2016 campaign, in which he calls Trump a draft dodger and warns voters. In fact, Waltz lost 4 key staffers after Loomer urged the president to fire the National Security Council officials for disloyalty, reportedly presenting Trump with a list of a dozen names and examples of why they should not be trusted. Loomer has now claimed credit for Waltz's ouster, declaring he had been Loomered, quote unquote.